chance to talk to a guy named Patrick at the men's shelter, and he was telling me about how he used to be an alcoholic for 3 years or so, and how he's been clean now for so long. He thought that everybody deserved, God's forgiveness, and how he thought everybody had a chance to hear from God and had God work in their lives. And that really just stuck out to me, because here he was in a men's shelter, and he still had so much hope, and he still wanted to, share what God is doing in his life with everybody else. And that's really what I learned in Dallas 2011. Yeah.
One of the days we went to a homeless shelter, and I got to talk to a girl named Kelly, and the whole entire time I was talking to her, there were tears rolling down her face. And I got to talk with her, and I got to pray with her, and before I left, she told me that my testimony gave her hope to start her life over again. God has just shown me that He makes the best out of every single situation, and our heartaches and the pain that we go through, He uses. And it just showed me that He links us together with other people for reasons, and that's why we need to share our story and what God has done in our lives with the rest of the world at all times.
On our last day of ministry, we went to a homeless shelter, and I met a man named Ron there, and he was just telling me about how he was a drug addict and he was trying to overcome it, and that he's been messing up a lot. And I just shared with him the news of Jesus, and he said he did know Jesus, so I prayed with him. And God just showed me that that people do make mistakes, but they can really change.
So we were at the rodeo one day. It was actually a day we weren't really ministering. I noticed a family sitting in front of us, and there was a little boy that was staring at a paper fan I had in my hand. And so one of my friends, Lance, was like, "You should give it to him, you should give it to him." And so I got his attention again, and I offered it to him, and his face immediately lit up. And at the end, he got up and he was about to give it back to me. I was like, "Oh no, you can keep it, you can keep it." And he's like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, just keep it." And as he was walking away, I watched him wave the fan in front of his mom and dad's face, and he was really excited about it. And I just learned to always be ready for an opportunity to minister to people, whether it's giving a smile or a paper fan that I got for free at the door, or just to never have a poor attitude and always be ready to let God use you at all times.
My first day of VBS, I met this girl named Akaya. She had the biggest smile on her face. She looked like she had it all together, but I felt inside that there was more to her story. So I sat next to her during VBS, and I saw the biggest bruise on her arm. About an hour later, I took her aside and asked her what happened. I saw the emotions build up in her eyes, and she said, "I'm not supposed to tell, but I will anyways." And she said that her stepdad hit her last night. I asked, "Can I please pray for you?" And we did. And the next day, she came running to me with the biggest smile on her face, and she said, Elena, my bruise is totally gone, and he didn't even hit me last night, and because you prayed for me, I know Jesus is watching over me." And in my head, I was like, "Thank you, Jesus, for hearing my prayer, and thank you for keeping this little girl safe." And if my missions trip was meant to save this little girl from domestic violence, these whole 2 weeks were worth it.
On this trip, I really learned that I need to appreciate what I have more, because there's people out there that really don't have much because they may have lost it all, or maybe they just didn't have anything to begin with. And on this trip, we ministered to some very poor areas, and it was just amazing to see how the kids just went on with being happy even though they had very little to be happy about. And then later on in the week, we went to a homeless ministry site, and it was just breathtaking about how many there were that weren't saved, and it was just great that we were able to plant seeds in all of them.
So for one of our days, we went to Souls Harbor, which is a men's home, and we served them dinner. But after the dinner, I was standing with Daniel, and we looked over and we saw this big black man. We went over and talked to him. His name was Reggie, and he talked about how in his 20s and 30s that he was addicted to drugs and drinking, and he would deal drugs. But he said that he's always loved the Lord, but he has never been on fire as he was when we talked to him. He said that he has been in Souls Harbor for about 14 months, and he said that he was there previously, but he went out and he did drugs again. But he came back, and he said they can come back as many times as they want, just like the Lord forgives us, that the people that work there forgive him. He changed me because it showed that, just because you made a mistake once doesn't mean that you're a failure, or that God doesn't love you anymore. So
One of the days on our trip, we went to the nursing home, and I met a lady named Mildred. And when I sat next to her on the couch, we were passing a ball around. She was singing, "Jesus loves me, this I know." The lady next to her, it's like, she sings this song all day, and then she yelled at her to shut up. Before we left, I told her to always keep singing that song no matter who yells at her. And she was just so happy that I said that to her, and she was just had the biggest smile on her face. And it just really showed me that showing someone God's love and just encouraging them can really bring light to their life, and that we need to do that for everyone and just give them that hope.
So we went to this homeless center, and I sat down with a guy named David, and he was telling me, how he got there and, his life story. And he was saying that he has hopes and dreams of making kind of like a youth home for young kids to come and get their life together. And he was just talking to me about it, and so God told me to pray with him about it. As soon as he opened his eyes, you can see the hope return to his eyes, and you can see that he knows, okay, I can do this and I can get out of here. It was just exciting to see because we prayed and we were believing for his hope, and then at the end he started talking to me about what he's gonna do to get out of here and what he's gonna do to make his dream come true. And I just think it's cool that Jesus gave hope to the hopeless, and that's what I did.
So the first day of VBS, my group had the little preschoolers, and the first 2 days I was feeling kind of discouraged because they were little and I felt like they didn't really understand. But I continued to pray throughout the week, and the last day I was talking to a little girl named Ariana, and before we said goodbye, I asked her if she was gonna tell people about Jesus, and she told me yes. So even though I felt discouraged, I still know that I planted a seed, that we all planted seeds in all those children, and that no matter what, that's all that matters, and the seed is going to continue to grow.
The first day of VBS, I was partnered with this kid named Giovanni, and he wasn't the type of person that I thought I would witness to. He was bullied by his older brothers and older sisters, and he would swear, and I just didn't think that I would ever be able to make an impact on this kid. But the first day we got there, I went up to him and said hi, and his whole life changed after that. When we would play games, he would ask to be my partner, and I would already say, "Hey man, we already are partners." And then everything about that changed his life, and I know that even though it didn't seem like he was listening, he was really understanding what we were talking about, because when his brothers and sisters would pick on him later, he wouldn't act out in anger like he would before, and whenever I was around him, he wouldn't swear, and it was a really life-changing experience to talk to this kid and help him out in life.
So one of the days we kind of got home early from dinner. We were supposed to just relax and just play some games and stuff. Instead, we decided we wanted to go out to the basketball court that was behind the apartments. So we went back there, and there was a bunch of kids, and we did a little skit for them. It was called Purple Pancakes, and there were these two kids. They were sitting outside of the playground, and they just kind of looked like they were like they were too cool. Rose had the idea to go and ask them to come and do the skit with us or watch it with us, and they did. And then they started playing along with us, and they one of them came up and did a little role for it, and it was just really cool how we got to minister to people who were just around us rather than actually going to an actual homeless shelter or a nursing home or something like that. But we could just do it where we were.
During this trip, we did 2 vacation Bible schools, one in the morning, one in the evening. And at the first one, I met this kid named Jonathan. He told me at first he didn't want to go. He eventually did though, but he didn't seem too happy when he was there, and he didn't seem like the greatest kid. It wasn't really till the second day when I really started hanging out with him. We were doing this word search thing, and I asked him if he wanted to help me with it, and he said he wanted to. And just when we were doing it, he just seemed so much happier, and he had a smile on his face. And from then on, anytime he saw me, he wanted to hang out with me, or when we were playing a game, he wanted to be my partner, or even when we were just sitting down, he wanted me to sit next to him. And he just seemed so much happier and such a nicer kid, and just he and all the other kids were just so much fun to hang out with. And I never really thought that, hanging out with, just helping out little kids is my thing, but God proved me wrong. He showed me that He has given me a heart for little kids. And it just goes to show that you may think that some things aren't you, that's not your thing, but God can totally change that view for you around and just change it for the better. And I'm just so glad I met Jonathan, because he was such a great kid, and Scott just changed my life forever.
I love Dallas! Yeehaw!
Can you do a karate move?
Yeah.
Let me see.
I bet she wants to be with Tony Hawk.
Oh! You alright? That's alright.